all powerful, He's a God of love. So therefore, when bad things happen in our life, we think, okay, God doesn't love me. Because if God is a God of love, and He loves everybody without, any reservation and so forth, and love means that I get all that I want, and all my needs are supplied, and everything's hunky-dory, then I've got a problem with God. But the problem is not with the God of the Bible. The problem is with the God that we've created in the likeness of ourselves, right? And we want God to be like this, so we just sort of get all the verses we can find and make our God. We build our little God out of all these verses, and then this is the God we worship, and therefore when something happens in our life that doesn't agree with the little God that we've built, then we're running, in the other direction from because we think, God is false because he left me in the dungeon, right? Yeah. He left me in the dungeon, and I've got these doubts, and these doubts will grow unless I go back to the Bible and see what God says that God is like. That God is, yes, He's a loving God, but He's also a just God and a righteous God, and He's allowed humans to be human, and they can choose and make choices, but those choices have consequences that are going to happen. You reap what you sow. That's what God says. When you do something, when you do A, B, A and B, then C as a result. So all those things come together in this in this big formula that we have in terms of who God is and who we're putting our faith in. Sometimes we just put our faith in the wrong God, the God that we built for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's what we're dealing with here. John has done that. John has this picture of the Messiah that doesn't really fit with God's plan. And so John's got this plan. Okay, this is what God is going to do in my life. He's got this purpose for me. I'm the forerunner. I'm going to prepare the path. The Messiah is going to come in behind me and wipe out Rome and set up Israel as a great power in the world again. And we're going to have this big political kingdom. We're going to conquer all. It's going to go on ad infinitum. And it's all going to be good. But John's sitting in a dungeon. He's got doubts because God didn't do it that way. Didn't do it like He wanted him to do it. So John has all these doubts. And I think the thing for us is we do the same thing. Okay, God's got this plan for my life, and I've got it figured out, and I know exactly what it is, and I'm working on this plan, but then whoop, God does this. I've got this plan that I'm going to we're going to have this great me and my husband have this great ministry. And then all of a sudden we've got 3 kids and we don't have any time to do anything. We're just chasing kids all over the place, taking them to basketball practice, football practice, and all these kinds of things. Of course, you can still do ministry in the midst of all that. But I'm saying that if your plan was, okay, we're just going to have our little couples group, and we're all going to kind of hang out and have a good time together, and we won't have to deal with kids, and all of a sudden God changed your plan. It's like you get real disappointed. If you were just set on that plan, you didn't allow for God to work in your life like God wants to. Well, that's what happened to John. John had a plan. And John was in pain too. And that adds to our doubt, right?
Yeah.
When you're in pain, it's kind of like, God, do you know how much I'm hurting here? God, did you see that last month, there were more bills than there was paycheck? And so you got that little memo, didn't you, God? I mean, it's not really working here. And so when those things happen, when there's pain in our life, like John in prison, then we tend to start questioning God and we start doubting God. Now, let me give you a little formula for dealing with doubt. How to overcome doubt, how to have faith. And again, honest doubt is what we're talking about here. If you've just determined that you're not going to believe in God because you want to sleep with your girlfriend, or you want to have an affair, or you want to steal money from your company, if you already decided that, then you're not an honest doubter. You're just looking for excuses not to do what God says, and not believing in God helps your conscience some. So I'm not talking to you this morning. That'll be another sermon. But I'm talking to those who are honest seekers, honest doubters. And this is going to be in a little acrostic form, okay? Faith. You can put faith down the side of your page if you're taking notes. For number one, F.
All right.
First letter, F.
All right.
The first letter in terms of overcoming doubt and having faith is find the root of your doubts. Figure out the root of your doubts. Sometimes it is the mind. Sometimes it's an intellectual problem. Okay, I've been accused of having an intellectual problem before, not having enough intellect. But But in your mind, there might be a dilemma that there's there. Like, okay, if God is totally good, like I had, several years ago, if God is totally good and there's evil in the world, how can that be? That's just impossible, just from the way I'm seeing. Well, there are answers to those kinds of philosophical questions, obviously, but that might be one of your dilemmas. One of the problems you have is how does that work? And so there's lots of good books. Actually, I've brought a few here. I promised Christina I would give her a couple of these. But Josh McDowell, Evidence That Demands a Verdict, and Reasons Skeptics Should Consider Christianity. These are a couple books that are just on my shelf. I think Christina's got dibs on at least one of these, but you can get the other one. Then Douglas Jacoby has another great book on Christian evidences. There are a lot of good books out there about Christian evidence that will help you deal with the mind problems. Like, okay, if this is true, then how can this be, kinds of things. The second one, I think, is emotional doubt. When, like John, we're in pain and we start going, and it lasts for days, and it lasts for weeks, and it lasts for months, and it lasts for years, then we can start doubting things about God. And a lot of times, and sometimes this emotional pain can put us in the prison of doubt, but I think sometimes maybe it's not so much pain as it is we're not taking care of ourselves physically. If you remember Elijah in Judges 18, I think it is. In Judges 18, Elijah has had this great victory on Mount Carmel where he's called down fire and he's destroyed the Baals, the prophets of Baal, Jezebel's hitmen and so forth. There's like 400 or 500 of them. But he comes to a contest and he defeats them and he kills them. And then right after that, Jezebel says, hey, I'm going to kill you. And so he gets discouraged, he takes off running, and he's running from God. He gets real super depressed, and he says, I just wish I were dead. I feel so bad about life. I just wish, you ever felt like that? Just kind of wish death would just go ahead and take me. I'd like to be going home. I felt like that. I feel like that about every once a week. I'm looking forward to going home. It's not because life, I've got a great life. I enjoy life. I love life, but I just kind of like, it'd be nice to be in heaven right now. But Elijah was just discouraged. He was depressed. You know what God told Elijah? Take a nap. Get some rest, dude. You've been running for days. Get some rest. And some of us sometimes doubt works on us in our hearts when we're just overstretched and we're just doing too much. God says, get some rest, and then he gave you something to eat. Look, take care of yourself physically. Your physical well-being affects your spiritual well-being. That's the message. Now, sometimes you can step all night and pray, but you can't do that every night. And I wouldn't suggest you do it once a week. But God is clear about this with Elijah. Elijah's a great example of someone who's a mighty man of God who got real depressed because he just got overextended and got worn out physically. So take a little lesson from Elijah. Of course, I think the other root of our doubts could be our own will. The pride in our heart that says, I just don't want to submit to God. I like what I'm doing. I've got this plan for my life, and if I submit to God, then I might have to change my plan. Therefore, I'm not going to change my plan, or I'm not going to submit to God. Then you're going to start getting doubts about God because you're going to well, God's not blessing my plan. Well, he didn't promise to bless your plan. He said that he would bless his plan, right? So you've got to deal with all those things. So find the root of your doubts. Identify it. And if it is, if it's an intellectual doubt, identify what the intellectual problem is. What is it? And if there are answers, there might not be an answer in this life. You might have to, when you get to heaven, be up there raising your hand. Hey, I got a question. That would be Christina. She's going to have her hand up. Oh, yeah, I think you will. The second thing, F, is find the root of your doubts. The second thing, ask God and others for help. Faith. How to get faith. Ask God and others for help. An honest inquiry into your problem. Ask God for help. Pray. That means pray, right? If you're asking God for help, you're praying. God. And then there's a great example. This is the Bible. Mark 9. You've got a father who's got a son who is demon possessed. And Jesus and the inner circle, James, Peter, John, go up on the mount. They see Jesus transfigured. They come back down from the mountain. And this father, the crowd's all distressed because the disciples can't heal this demon-possessed boy. And so, might be overlapping stories here, but there's a story like that in the Bible. But this one, but the father comes to Jesus and says, you know, if you can do anything, help my son. If you can. And Jesus says, dude, you know, everything's possible for those who believe. And what's his response?
Help me overcome my unbelief.
I believe, help me overcome my unbelief. See, that should be our prayer every day, right? Yeah, I do believe, but I want to have more faith. God, help me to have greater faith. I want to trust you more. I want to have greater faith. That's an honest prayer that God will answer. In fact, James says, you have not because you ask not. If you feel like I'm struggling with doubt, ask God. That's where you start with dealing with doubt, right? And of course, asking other people. Relationships. John had some friends. And John asked his friends to go ask Jesus about this situation. Hey, I'm having some doubts here, Jesus, about your messiahship. I know you're my cuz, and we're tight. We're like this, but, you know, you're not really doing like I thought you were going to do it. I got a different memo, I think, but I'm not sure. Help me out here. Kind of, you know. He sends his friends to find out. Well, he had relationships where he could get help in building his faith. That's why it's so important to be at church on midweek, because the smaller groups give you that opportunity to talk about things, to question things. Those kinds of things are all a part of that. Of course, being at church regularly is a big part of that too. But he had friends, he had relationships. So ask God and others for help. Invest some time. Invest some time in finding the answers to your questions. There are a lot of books, like I just mentioned. These books, there are tons of books out there that can be helpful. Actually, it's a good website, leestrobel.com, Leestrobel.